You're listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and this week's episode is for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. The Major League Soccer season is about to kick off. I'm very, very excited for watching Major League Soccer, but especially for the LA Galaxy, my all-time favorite soccer team. The LA Galaxy, regardless of how they're doing, whether it's poor or doing excellent or somewhere in the middle, I always love watching the team. But they have actually made some really, really cool team adjustments during this offseason. So I think for the first time in a while, they're going to be a really competitive team that could possibly be competing for MLS Cup this year, or at least the bare minimum making the playoffs and making a good splash in Major League Soccer and giving us lots of entertaining soccer games to watch this year. So to celebrate the starting of the Major League Soccer season, which officially kicks off tomorrow night in Miami, the Galaxy's first game won't be until Sunday, the 25th. But to celebrate, I'm going to be inviting a very awesome guest, Tim Welling, who, again, is a major, major fan of the LA Galaxy, just like I am. So it's always awesome and great to have Tim on the show to talk about everything that the Galaxy's been up to the past couple of months during the offseason, to preview the game against Inter Miami, and just talk soccer in general. So I'm really excited that Tim's able to join me. Before I get to Tim in our conversation about the LA Galaxy, I do want to share some entertainment news very, very quickly, because all these entertainment news stories that I want to share are really awesome and cool. And if I wanted to, I could dive into each of them individually for quite a while, but I do want to kind of go through this quick so I can get to my conversation with Tim. First, the Fantastic Four cast has finally been announced. It's been a long time coming, but Marvel Studios has finally announced who will be playing the Fantastic Four. Pedro Pascal, who, again, had been reported by many entertainment news outlets that he was going to be as Mr. Fantastic. It is officially confirmed that he will be Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby, best known from the Mission Impossible movies, the most recent ones, and I think she was in one of the Fast and the Furious movies as well, will be playing the Invisible Woman. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things, playing the character of Eddie, is going to be playing Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. And Yvonne Bachrach will be playing the Thing. So this cast is really cool. I mean, I would love to dive into it a little more deeply. I'll probably save that for another episode. Excuse me. But yes, July 25th. 2025, next summer will be the official release date. We'll see. I think these projects sometimes get pushed back if things aren't moving fast enough, but we finally have the cast. We just need some villains, and I think we're going to get some good villains as well. And I'd imagine that if they want to meet that date, they're probably going to start filming very soon, probably this spring. I'd imagine the script's already done, so we're just waiting to get these cameras rolling. But yeah, I'm really excited for Marvel Studios version of the Fantastic Four. Next, Ben Wang, a relatively unknown Chinese kid who was actually in the Disney Plus show American Born Chinese, or was it a movie? I'm not sure. But he has been cast as the new Karate Kid to appear in that Sony-produced Karate Kid movie with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan, which is still tentatively scheduled for this December. But I mean, they're filming Cobra Kai right now. I would imagine Ralph Macchio's schedule is probably pretty busy, and until Cobra Kai finishes, he can't really start this new project. So I don't think they're going to make that date of December. But it is exciting and encouraging that they do have the new Karate Kid cast. This kid, Ben Wang, is well versed in various forms of martial arts and speaks Mandarin fluently. So I think he's going to be an excellent addition to the cast. I think it should be really cool. I've never seen that American Born Chinese show, so I'm sure he's a good choice for the role. But it should be interesting to see, definitely. And then last but not least, Incubus introduced or announced some really important news pertaining to the band. So Ben Kenny has officially quit the band. He's officially left. I was assuming that he might be able to return after he went through his major surgery last year, but it looks like Ben Kenny has officially retired. And Nicole Rowe, who was brought in as a temporary replacement, is now, in fact, the permanent replacement. I am going to miss Ben. I think Ben was really awesome on bass, but as I mentioned in my conversation with Allison last summer, talking about Incubus, I think Nicole Rowe is a more than acceptable and more than fitting addition to the band. I think she's going to contribute very well. And the band announced that they're going to be re-recording the Morning View album entitled Morning View 23. It's going to be a really kind of like rock heavy sound. Of course, it's already a really awesome rock heavy album, but there are a few songs that they've already released so far that sound really, really cool. In fact, I want to play just a little bit of a clip from the song Echo, which is a slower kind of like love song from the first Morning View album, but they've actually incorporated some really heavy guitars into the sound in this re-recording of it. So take a listen to this.
Show me, dear, something I've not seen, something infinitely interesting. Could you show me, dear, something I've not seen, something infinitely interesting?
So yeah, I really, really love that heavy guitar sound that they've had incorporated into the album, or this particular song rather. And I think the re-recorded versions of the songs are going to be really cool. So I'm planning to probably do a track by track review of this new Incubus album that gets released, or rather, a re-recording of an existing album, but interpreting the songs differently, which would be really cool to dive into. It's scheduled to be released sometime in May. I've read conflicting reports. Some reports have said May 10th, some have said May 24th. I'm assuming it is going to be this May, but I'll definitely keep everybody, all the listeners, posted as to when this particular re-recorded Incubus album will be releasing. And apparently they've got some new material in the works too, so it'll be really cool to hear new songs with Nicole Rose specifically contributing to their writing process. So that's the news for today. Again, all three of those stories have me really excited, and I could probably go on for much longer about all three of them if I wanted to, but I want to get to my conversation with Tim Welling. So thank you to the listeners. Thank you for catching this episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. This is my conversation with Tim Welling, previewing the 2024 LA Galaxy Major League Soccer season. So welcome back to the show, Tim Welling. Tim, how are you doing, my friend?
Very good, sir. How's it going, Albert?
It's going good. I'm excited that soccer season's upon us. It's a really awesome time of the year. It's been too long. I mean, I love all sports, so technically, there's something to watch all year long. But there is something really special about like the leaving the winter, getting into the springtime for both the start of MLS and MLB. So I'm really excited for both soccer and baseball.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch much baseball myself, but soccer, definitely excited. We're on the eve of a new season, and you hear about all the signings that have happened, or like, potential signings, how the off season's gone. So it's like just a lot of anticipation.
Yeah, it's been a really, really exciting offseason for the Galaxy. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, knock on wood, because I mean, we've said this before in the past couple of years, but this year really feels like something special is happening with the team that hasn't happened in quite a while.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've had good feelings before, right? But I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, but it does feel different this year. I mean, it looks like there's some signings that could make a real impact. Yeah, I'm stoked.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's dive into some Galaxy talk. Before we get into like the recent signings and the recent news and stuff, I just kind of feel just to complete the story, I want to kind of fill in our listeners onto the whole Chris Klein saga. Because really, as far as like listeners go, like I mean, I think you, maybe a handful of other friends, I really love the Galaxy, but I think most of my listeners of this podcast maybe don't really follow the team. So, we talked about what was going on with Chris Klein. Big news happened with him, but we didn't really finish the story. So I kind of wanted to do that. Just really
Yeah.
quick. I mean, we don't have to focus on him too much, but so Tim, can you fill in the listeners what ended up happening with Chris Klein after the season when we talked about the fact that the fans were boycotting and they were basically the hardcore fans weren't coming to the games until this particular front office guy was let go.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, Chris Klein was what manager of LA Galaxy for or or president, right? Kind
Team
of their
president, yeah.
of their soccer operations, and for like 9 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we talked about it last year. The Galaxy had a not a great start, and there's a lot of pressure, on the front office to get rid of, some old heads that have been in charge for a while. While I mean, meanwhile, the Galaxy hasn't seen much success when it comes to the off season or how their results go. I mean, they last won MLS Cup in like 2013, right? Or
2014.
2014, yeah. So I mean, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure about making changes on the team, and so he sort of had a target on his back a little bit, and a lot of people thought for good reason because it just seemed like we needed a change, and yeah, I thought it was very interesting because I mean he he ended up making there was so much pressure building and like so many all the comments it felt like on social media for Galaxy was just very negative at the time for sure. Like there, like a lot of people wanted change, and so they had to address it. And so it was interesting how he made that kind of that promise to just give it till the end of the season. If the results aren't what we're looking for, that he would step down as president. But what ended up happening is, he ended up getting fired before that even had to occur. And that was it last June? I mean, was it even halfway through the season? It was like a little before, wasn't it?
A little before. I want to say it was in May, and I remember
May?
there was a particular incident where I think some of the fans actually did come and lift their boycotts. If I remember correctly, the Angel City Brigade did. They said, "Okay, we're going to come and support the team." They really wanted, the fans back in the stadium, particularly for the Rose Bowl game against LAFC. And what happened was after one particularly really bad loss, I think some of the fans actually got into almost like a really bad vocal altercation with some of the Galaxy GM people who were there. I think even head coach Greg Vanney. So like I think for lack of a better word, the poop hit the fan, basically, and Chris Klein was let go. So basically, it's interesting to me that in a way you can look at it that the fans ended up winning. I before I thought it was comparing it to like a game of chicken, where like who's going to give first, the front office or the fans, who's going to give in first. As it turns out, the fans actually won this game of chicken.
Yeah, I mean, it was very surprising. You think they hold all the cards. Ultimately, I mean, they can make it's up to the team to make their own personnel decisions. But I mean, there was just it was too much. It was too much. Yeah, I mean, the results just weren't there, and it had been enough time where I think most fans were really ready for something else. And yeah, it was actually surprising to see the boycotts really work, honestly, because yeah, I'm pretty sure if there wasn't a boycott, that they probably would have, he would have made it to the end of the season, or if there wasn't that amount of pressure that that him and the team were under, that he probably would have been around. But yeah, it's just it was effective, so it was interesting for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But then unfortunately, just to finish the story, so Chris Klein is let go. The Galaxy have just a disastrous season where so many key players got injured. And in fact, I mean, I know it could be just an easy for me as a fan just to claim this, but I honestly feel that if they hadn't lost half their starters, they probably would have done better, maybe made the playoffs. But again, that the excuses what they are. But what I want to do now is actually insert a clip. So the LA Galaxy recently started a YouTube, well, they've had a YouTube channel for quite a while. They just started a brand new show to give a really in-depth look into the team. And I'm really excited to watch this. This is really cool stuff. So we can take just a second, Tim. I'm going to go ahead and insert this into the clip, the beginning episode of the Galaxy's team YouTube show, Our Team.
Plays ahead to Ferreira. Our referee points to midfield, and the 2023 season has come to an end for the LA Galaxy as FC Dallas puts on 4 in the first half for a 4-1 victory.
Honestly, like just a lot of emotions today. It's been a challenging year.
Yeah, I think last season was a good example of what we don't want to have happen again. You know, last season, while it didn't end the way we wanted it to, it did afford us a little more time to plan, scout, and begin negotiation with players. So we feel better prepared for the start of the season with the extra time that we had.
So we just heard the voices of key Galaxy personnel. Joe Tutino, a longtime play-by-play man for the team, head coach Greg Vanney, and new recently appointed GM of the general manager of the club, Will Kuntz. So, the season ended really bad, but at the same time, I think there was a glimmer of hope in the fact that Will Kuntz was hired. So, Tim, what do you know about Will Kuntz? I mean, he comes to the Galaxy with a huge pedigree of success in previous experiences working with Major League Soccer, and not even Major League Soccer only exclusively, but also with Major League Baseball as well.
Yeah, was it the Yankees he was involved in, or who?
Yeah, it was the Yankees. He was part of their World Series championship team in 2009. He was working with the organization there. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I remember that. I thought that was really interesting. His involvement in Major League Baseball with the Yankees, and of course also more importantly for soccer, I mean LAFC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Was he their manager as well, or
he was? I think assistant club manager. So he wasn't like the head guy, but he was helping. He was definitely part of the success that that club has had. As much as I hate to admit it. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, especially if we get. I mean, yeah, it was that was a really interesting signing. And the fact that he has had a lot of previous success, just it feels right. And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but when it comes to the signings that we've seen or the players that he's been targeting since he's come in, it really seems like he's got a lot of ambition. And he seems to be filling out the spots that we had gaps in last year. So yeah, Will Kuntz. Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting as well that he said, that he wanted to. He always wanted to manage Galaxy at some point. I believe.
Yeah.
He's been a longtime fan and from the area as well. I believe.
I believe that's correct. Yeah. So it was interesting, like how he got involved with the Yankees. I haven't heard that part of the story, but it's really fascinating. Really intelligent guy. So as you mentioned, Tim, I mean, he's just the perfect candidate to fill in the club GM position that the Galaxy have been lacking really since Bruce Arena was like the head coach / GM of the club back when he was with the team.
Yeah. It's and Bruce Arena. I mean, how long has it been since he was?
He left in 2016, so 2 years after they won their last championship. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it's been gone for a while. Because Dennis DeClose, was he a GM or he had a similar?
Yeah, role? I think technically he was club GM or a very similar role to that. Technically, it might have been a technical different title, but yeah, basically doing that for the club. And it seemed like he was a good fit initially, but we all know what kind of happened with him. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, last season, I mean, I understand that because I mean, we had that issue with signing players. We weren't able to sign international players in that first transfer window during the off season.
Yeah.
And so we weren't able to get in, more key players until the summer. And with Dennis DeClose, I think that some of that punishment was from what I understand, his responsibility, or, it happened under his tenure.
Yeah. He got off because technically he wasn't with the Major League Soccer team anymore once it was discovered what happened.
Yeah.
But well, anyways, yeah. So before we get into the key signings that Will Kuntz has been kind of partly responsible for, and we definitely want to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the key departures. So I know Chicharito, one of your all-time favorite players, unfortunately, is no longer with the team. As is Douglas Acosta, no longer with the team. Raheem Edwards, Tyler Boyd, who I'm really bummed that he's not with the team anymore. So if you could touch on some of the key departures, what do you think the Galaxy is maybe going to be missing with some of these guys no longer here?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, I mean, Chicharito, I mean, I'm kind of a, I'm kind of a new, a new fan again of the sport. And when I was getting into, into soccer and watching MLS and really watching the Galaxy again, Chicharito was a huge part of that. I mean, because I mean, he was with the team from 2020 on. Was that?
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of just unfortunate that COVID happened when it did. They signed him. We were so excited. He played maybe one or two games, and then the lockdowns happened, and that was it. So,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was unfortunate, but yeah, the 2021 and 2022. I mean, I always remember those seasons for
yeah,
Chicharito because he was a killer out there. I mean, he was the perfect number nine in my opinion. I
mhm.
don't know, like he was doing what Chicharito does, where he may not be like the most technically like competent soccer player out there, but he finds a way to score and he finds a way to get in the dangerous spots where he can really do some damage. And so, yeah, I mean, Chicharito, I was bummed to see him go. I mean, last year was a bit of an off year. I mean, just overall with the team. I mean, we had so many injuries, and I mean, he was really the first one from what I remember. I mean, Chicharito, I think only made it 10 games, and then he had that really bad injury in Salt Lake.
Yeah,
Uh, and season ending. Yeah, was that his
that was
ACL
season.
or?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so I know that he had talked about, wanting to that he had a desire to actually retire his career with Galaxy, like that would have been something that he would is, interested in and wanted.
mhm.
So I am sad that he left the team because I know that he wasn't always the he had a number of detractors, but when he was switched on, he was and he was doing his thing. He was really effective. I mean, they were talking about the golden boot for him, like those over those 2 years, I believe. At some point, he was really really up there on the charts, during the end of the season. But yeah, him going to, if he wasn't with Galaxy and he did leave the team, he went to the Chivas, right? In Liga Mexico.
I believe so. Yeah. In fact, actually, for that special tournament they do between Liga MX and MLS, they're going to be facing each other. So he's actually going to be returning to Dignity Health Sports Park, just
Oh,
on the
that's
other side of the
right.
field, though. So,
That's right. That'll be interesting. And I mean, I do love the fact that like he went to his boyhood club.
yeah,
You always see that. So
yeah.
I mean, that's where he learned soccer. Where he really grew his game. And so to see him return to his old team like that, and I understand they had a big ceremony for his reintroduction onto the team. But it seems I feel like that's a good fit for him too to see out his career. So excited for that for him, honestly. And I've been looking at the games a little bit to see if he's made. I know he's not fielded on yet. I think he's
Yeah.
probably still working on his fitness, but
Uh-huh.
it'll be exciting to see him return.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
would be pretty cool.
and yeah, what some other son? Yeah, you mentioned
So
Tyler Boyd.
Douglas Costa wasn't didn't have his contract renewed. That one was kind of hit or miss. I mean, sometimes he was like
Yeah,
on fire, just a great, amazing player, and sometimes he just like looked really disinterested. So it was hard to tell. I wouldn't say call him a complete bust, but I mean, I guess like I would look at his tenure as, I mean, not as quite as successful as Chicarito's was, but decent, I guess. Maybe I just best way of putting it.
yeah, because I mean, yeah, especially it really didn't feel like his first. Because yeah, he was with us 2 years, right? I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a full 2 years. Because I remember they got him
Mhm.
on the off season that and he started in 2022. But yeah, that was yeah, I'd say that was mixed as well. Like there were it was often you would find that he didn't seem to really work on his fitness too much. I mean, first off, and I can't blame him but as a DP, you kind of hope and expect that they'll be trying their best. And there were a lot of times that it didn't seem that he was very serious or that
Yeah.
he was very interested in being on the Galaxy. And yeah, I mean, he really didn't even switch on until last season. I feel like he started trying because he was ready to interview for his next team.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of how it felt to me, because he wasn't effective, and he got into a lot of fights. He got some really petty red cards that you just sort of say, okay, come on. I mean, be serious here. So I think that there were a lot of times that he really didn't want to be fielded, because he didn't look like it. But yeah, so seeing him go, like he I think he sort of redeemed himself a little bit, but overall nothing too special, I'd say.
Yeah. And then Tyler Boyd, I want to just touch on him very briefly. So, workhorse mentality. I just loved his style of play. That he was the only player who played every minute of every game. He suffered a hand injury, but that didn't stop him. He was still going out there playing, even with a broken hand. Very effective, scoring from outside. I think controlled the midfield very well. So it's just a shame that the team couldn't really quite fit him in with their new plans. And we're going to get into that as well. But so I definitely wish him well in Nashville. I think that's where he went to. But he was a joy to watch. I really love those players who are box to box, constantly giving their all. And yeah, he was definitely the kind of player that I think a lot of players should aspire to be like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we only had him for the 1 year, and it seemed like there was a lot of potential because I think we signed him from that Turkish, soccer club.
Yeah.
And he had been plagued with, injuries throughout his career, from what I understand. And so he was a bit of a wild card, but he really showed his potential on the field. I mean, he always, like you said, I understood that did he always start? Did he really play?
Yeah, that's the stat that I saw from the Corner of the Galaxy podcast. They said he started every minute of every game in 2023.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that you're in every single game is just, I mean, yeah, that's what you hope for and strive for your. But I mean, it's so easy. It feels like it's so easy for players to get injured. I mean, that's just. It's sort of a matter of sooner or later you're going to get an injury. It just depends. But yeah, the fact that he was playing through, a broken arm and really just showed that, and, his work rate, he always gave it his all. It always felt that way. And so like the fact that he, I believe, tied or was just under our top goal scoring for our team last year. Just the fact that we couldn't, re-sign him was a bit of a disappointment for me, because I feel like I don't believe that he was fighting for a DP contract. So really, in my eyes, it's like we've had so many hit or miss players that, like, if you got a good player like Tyler Boyd who really shows up for the team, who's really effective, who can really, has good control, is really good on one-on-one situations, and he's not going to be paid DP money. It's just it feels hard to believe that we can't come up with that type of money. But like you said, I mean, it could be more so that we were finding players that could maybe surpass his ability. I mean, we're sort of targeting the winger position, and yeah, with the DP signings that looks like we're going to have, maybe there was enough room to keep him as a starter. So I could see that also being a bit of an issue there, or, what led to him not being re-signed if he couldn't find, consistent minutes again.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the challenges that, that people like, the head coach, Greg Vanney, and club GM, Will Kuntz, they have to deal with. Like, yes, these players are great, but I mean, if we can get value from them and actually make our team stronger in the process, I mean, then you kind of have to pull the trigger on some of those things. So I'm assuming that was the case with Tyler Boyd. But yeah. So he'll be missed, but we have so many exciting new players to be really, really happy about. So let's go ahead and jump back into that clip from the YouTube Galaxy show. This is going to be more audio from Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz talking about the transformation the team went during the offseason and how the Galaxy's future could be vastly improved based on their new acquisitions.
Really high. I think people are excited to show the world that last year was an aberration and that we're going to be coming back stronger and bringing the Galaxy to the heights of the league that we used to occupy.
The single most important thing for our group is that last year goes into the rearview mirror, and we're really focused on who we're going to be now, our process, getting everybody back on the field, the guys who are still recovering from injuries, the new guys coming in, and connecting this group. And last year was a set of circumstances that were unique for anyone. We have to just understand that and move on, so that this year our mentality is all about this particular group and this season and this journey that we're about to embark on as a group to be successful this year.
Our primary focus in the offseason has been on improving the roster, as it always is, and one of the key areas we wanted to address was depth, and so adding some veteran leadership across the club, whether that's a left back like John Nelson, a forward like Miguel Berry, or a goalkeeper like John McCarthy has been something we're really excited about. We're adding Miki Yamane, a very successful right back from Japan who's played with Maya Yoshida with the national team. Peck, first and foremost, is a great profile fit for the types of players that we're looking to add. He's a dynamic attacking winger who has had a very strong career at a young age in Brazil, which is a very competitive league. We like his competitiveness, his character, his ability to score goals and work hard for the group. But we are really thrilled to have Gabriel choose the Galaxy as the next place to start his career, and we're excited to see what he brings to MLS. So very excited about having some more depth and some more high-end attacking pieces.
So very cool. It's really cool to hear both Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz talk about these new players that we've gotten. And the Gabriel Peck, their newest officially signed DP. That's important to know, officially signed, because we're going to be talking about another guy who's coming to town very soon as well. Gabriel Peck coming with us to the team with a very high pedigree of success from Brazil. So what did you think of the news when you heard that Gabriel Peck was going to be signing with the team?
Sorry, am I still there?
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was very excited. I mean, from what I understand, he was really the player for Vasco da Gama. And I understand that they were, at least at some point during their season, under a relegation battle, or were pretty close to being, kicked off the top flight of Brazilian soccer. But yeah, the fact that we were able to land a player like him, who is an attacking winger, is just what we need. Because it felt like a lot of the issues that Galaxy has had is not really having great service. I mean, in particular, the winger position. We've had really good. We've seen what Dejan Joveljic can do. As a number 9, and Chicharito as well. And I think that, like, if we had a little better service into the box and just had some really competent wingers on, both the left and right, would have made a huge difference for the team. So a player like Gabriel Peck, it seemed all good to me. I mean, he was sort of their star player. Super young. What was he, like 21?
23 years old.
23. Okay, yeah. So he's still so much potential in his career, and he's really just getting started. I'm pretty sure his stats, did he have 18 goals last season or something crazy?
Yeah, he had
a lot of assists. Yeah, I think he's one of those players who almost has a goal contribution for most of the games they're playing. So for a team like Galaxy to land someone like that, it's exactly what we're looking for. So that was a very exciting signing. I can't wait to see what he'll be able to offer the team. I know it'll probably take. You never know how long it takes for a player to integrate into a new team. It seems like sometimes it can be real quick, but sometimes it can take a while just for the chemistry. But we'll see. I mean, it seems all upside to me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So the reports that I've read online is that because of visa issues and the contract signing, getting all that everything worked out, he wasn't able to make it to the Coachella Valley Invitational, so he didn't get to do any of the preseason games with the team. But my understanding is he is going to be available, I think, starting either Tuesday or Wednesday to start formal training with the team to get them ready for their huge, massive game against Inter Miami to start the season. And we're going to get to that Inter Miami game as well. So
Yeah.
you're right. It could take a little bit of time to get acclimated to a new team, a new climate. Obviously, United States is much different than Brazil, but I think he's going to fit in just fine. I think he's going to do really, really well. I think he's going to excel in this league, and it's exciting that we have this really young kid that's going to have so many years to flourish and grow, and he's got so much like untapped potential just waiting to bust out. So I'm really excited to watch this Gabriel Pet guy.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he's one of those players who already has, like goal compilations for, is just, I think, tells you a lot about as far as what he's capable of. So that's a real exciting signing for sure.
Okay, so let's do a little jump. I guess tinfoil hat, like conspiracy theory, like just speculation, hardcore speculation. And again, there's lots of clues that are going out right now that apparently Joseph Paintsil from Ghana is on the process on the verge of signing a contract with the Galaxy at 26 years old. This is another kid who's coming with us a very high pedigree of soccer ability in him. Played for Genk, I think was his club. I wasn't really familiar. Genk, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't really familiar with this player beforehand, but after reading everything that I've read and seeing clips of him play, I mean, this is a total baller. He's going to be really fantastic for the team. So, talk a little bit about Joseph Paintsil, at least what you know about him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been reading the rumors and sort of looked into him, and yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure last season, from what I remember, it was like he played 36 games, he had 18 goals and 14 assists, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that's like what was that, 32? So like out of 36 games, he had like 32 goal contributions, essentially, on average. So it's like that's almost every single game. This is a player who's doing something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, he's got talking about he's got a lot of YouTube videos made up, with him as the subject and him scoring goals. So it's pretty exciting. And yeah, a player with European soccer experience, playing in the Belgian league. And for a team like Genk, I don't know too much about him, but I know some players who've been signed from there. Like the other team I follow, Aston Villa in the Premier League. One of their star players, Leon Bailey, was originally from Genk, or was playing on that team, and he's killing it right now. So,
very cool.
I mean, if he's any potential sign of what we can see, I mean, that's just, yeah. I mean, Joseph Paintsil. So that's an exciting one. Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, I think there's been a video of him at Dignity Health Sports Park. I mean, he's already here in LA. I mean, what else? I mean, there's a few signs pointing that he might be here.
I would be completely shocked and surprised if he doesn't sign a contract. I mean, it just seems the writing's on the wall. He's gonna sign a contract. He probably won't be ready for Inter Miami, but again, it's just exciting that we have 3 DPs all under the age of 30 for the first time ever in team history. Not to say that the old guys can't contribute, but again, that's kind of going towards the old MLS philosophy of what people I've unofficially coined MLS 2.0, where you would sign an aging European superstar who could bring in big numbers, but maybe are kind of more on the decline of their career. This is definitely 3, including Ricky Puig, who's been with the team for a number of years now. He's only 24. These 3 guys together, all under the age of 30, in fact, even under the age of 27, if you want to just get it as close as possible. All 3 of them have bright futures and can easily contribute at a super high level. So I think automatically the Galaxy have just turned into one of the most dangerous teams in the Western Conference, just with these 3 guys.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, there's already enough signs that looks like Joseph is going to come. And it really just feels like, with like, I mean, a new direction that this team is going now with, signing 3 young DPs, first time in team history. I didn't know that, but that's very interesting. It's very, very telling because, we've seen some of the stars that have played for the team, and sort of the model that the team is operated under. So to see three players with huge potential, they've made huge impacts in either previous teams or Ricky's made a huge impact with this team. It'll be really interesting to see what they can do together on the field, and if they're all healthy, all staying fit. It'll be interesting to see what kind of service they can offer the team, and it just feels like a season with lots of potential. So
absolutely. Yeah. So let's jump into some of the other recent signings too that I think are actually going to be big contributors to the team. Miki Yamane, a right back, Japanese descent, played on the Japanese squad in Qatar, so a World Cup experience. Really, really exciting that he was part of that team. Most likely playing next to Maya Yoshida, who the Galaxy picked up last season, who's going to be playing the center back role most likely, or the center back position is going to be kind of iffy now because we have Martin Cáceres back from injury, which is great to have him back. Jalen Neal, who, I mean, I'm so bummed that the poor kid had to, I guess, dealing with a hip pointer or some type of bad injury. He's expected to return, but he's going to have to miss maybe a month of action. But once he's back, I mean, it's going to be kind of a fight, I think, who's going to be the regular starter at center back. But going back to Yamane, I mean, it's really cool that the city of LA is just kind of buzzing with Japanese superstars like Otani and Yamamoto for the Dodgers. And I think just because of that, I think people are going to be paying attention. Hey, the LA Galaxy, they got some Japanese soccer players. So what do you think Yamane could contribute to the team?
He's one of the players where I haven't heard, I understand. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know too much about him, but I am excited to see that, he apparently has had a good career in Japan, and the fact that he's been a regular player on the Japanese national soccer team that's always a huge plus. I mean, there's not too many, in every single league, there's only a certain set amount of players who are ever going to make the bench, let alone play, or I'll flip that, but yeah, who's even going to be called up to the national team. So to see someone like Yoshida, who seemed to be I like that he seemed to do a good job last year. It was kind of hard to judge that a little because by the time he came on, we already had so many injuries and the team was a little bit crippled that I feel like we didn't really get to see his full potential either, just because the team was undergoing shock. But yeah, the fact that we have this new right back who's intimately familiar with or playing with our center back already and played on the national team, it seems like there'll be a lot of potential there as well. And the right Caligari, seeing him play right back last season was great for us, and that was another departure that was a bit of a bummer because he always provided, he, like Tyler Boyd. When I think of the two hardest players, I would say him and Tyler Boyd were probably up there as far as hustle, and energy that they brought. And to see Caligari get injured was kind of a bummer because he already had, that position locked down. He was going to start every time. He was sort of like, he was a wing back, and that, he had potential to move up the field and with some speed and skill and, make crosses that our forwards and, attacking midfielders used. So yeah, to lose a player like that to Yamane, I mean, we'll see. Again, I was surprised with Caligari because there wasn't too much history with that player, but he seemed to do well. And so Yamane, it'll be interesting to see what he brings. Do you know if he goes up, is he attack minded? I don't know. Have you?
Oh, unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he was one of the regular starters for the World Cup squad that played in Qatar, but I mean, he was definitely on the 26-man team. So I'll do a little more research so I can answer that question for you, Tim. But I would imagine he's probably attack minded. I think that would kind of fit in more with Greg Vanney's style of play or what he would expect from his fullbacks. So
yeah,
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, good point. Because I mean, because I was going to say, yeah, with the system that we've had under Greg Vanney for the past 3 years, we've always had a right back who would really push up the wing. So, like you said, he probably fits under the system. I would suppose.
Yeah, and he's definitely a right back. That information I know for sure. So, well, very cool. So there are a few other new players that we could touch on. There's just one more that I really wanted to focus on, and that's John McCarthy. So very interesting. He's the third player to play for both LAFC and the Galaxy. I'll just go on and say it. He's the sole reason, or the main reason, that LAFC won an MLS Cup a few years ago with 2 penalty saves. So I was pretty excited when I found out the Galaxy were signing him. But I did think it was an interesting signing because, I mean, he's essentially a starting goalkeeper. And Jonathan Boyd, I think he's had some ups and downs. I think for the most part, he's been really good. But they mentioned it on the Corner of the Galaxy podcast. It almost kind of seemed like, hey, I mean, he could very well be a replacement for Jonathan Bond, or Jonathan Bond. This could be a sign that he tell other MLS teams, hey, Jonathan Bond is on the market. We're looking to unload this guy. So where do you stand on the goalkeeper situation? Do you still like Bond? Would you like to see McCarthy jump in as a starter? In fact, there was even a third goalie I think they signed, right?
Yeah, it was that. I think he's also from Serbia. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah, is it Mikovic or
Mikovic? Thank you. Yeah,
Mikovic. Yeah. I thought. Yeah, so between the three of them, Mikovic. I mean, Jonathan Bond. I feel. Yeah, so Jonathan Bond. I would say he always seemed. I like Jonathan Bond, but I feel like it wasn't always consistent under Jonathan Bond. And so Mikovic, I understand he's a young player, early 20s, still lots of potential. But he seems to, I mean, I've heard that he's a contender for the starting spot. So between him and Bond and McCarthy, yeah, I mean, McCarthy, like you said, he was really responsible for, it came down to penalty kicks and he made some crazy good saves. So you can see what he's, the potential that he has, and he's already had a MLS career for a while, and so I think that, yeah, between him and Bond, it'll be interesting to see who's going to start, or even if it'll be Mikovic. But yeah, I think that getting a player like him, if we had the opportunity to, I'd say he's either as good or even better than Jonathan Bond. And I understand we were paying Jonathan Bond quite a bit, so I don't know. He wasn't always the most consistent, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, we'll see where that position goes.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where, like, you tune in to Apple TV Plus to watch the game and you're thinking, oh, who's going to be the starting goalie? I mean, we don't know. The rest of the other starting positions, I think, are pretty much filled, but it will be interesting come game time, turn on the TV and say, oh, who's starting? Because I honestly think that Jonathan Bond could be on the selling block, but we'll have to wait and see. But it'll be interesting. It's going to be a really interesting season.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very exciting.
So actually, I wanted to touch base on you now. So there was news this week, Tim. I don't know if you saw, they officially unveiled the Angelino kit, which I guess will be the primary home kit for the LA Galaxy. Do you like the design? I do like the sash, and it's pretty cool that they use like blue. I'm gonna try and describe it to the best I can for the listeners because you can only hear me, you can't see it, but thin blue lines moving diagonally, so it creates like a really big thick white sash line that goes diagonally with it. It's a really cool sleek leaking, I think, and it's got some cool gold trim, so it really features the Galaxy's primary colors of blue, white, and gold. I think it looks pretty cool. Angelino kit, I'm not particularly sure why it got the name. I guess maybe to really appeal to the city, but I think last year's was kind of more like inclined to actually be using like the LA flag colors, right? The kit they unveiled last year.
Yeah, that's right. That green and yellow and red kit that they had last year was like the LA City colors.
Yeah. So do you like this new Angelino kit that they just unveiled?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I did really like the previous kit. I've heard mixed things about it. I personally like the new one, but I think I like the last white one better, the City of Dreams kit. I think that one was called.
That's
with the stars. Yeah, it had like the stars going around the kind of the sleeves and over the neck. I was a fan of that, but this new one looks interesting. Yeah, and It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I don't think. Yeah, I think it looks good. I do think I like the way it looks.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Probably not as much as the last one, but I do like it. So
Mhm.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so then two more talking points that I want to bring up really quick for Major League Soccer. Replacement refs. So it looks like the refs union rejected the offer that was offered to them, and because of that, it appears that the refs are actually going to be locked out, which meaning that the owners are telling the refs that they can't participate in play, or not play, but referee games rather. So we're going to get replacement refs. And if you remember, several years ago when this happened with the NFL, it was I guess sort of disastrous, like it was mixed feelings, but ultimately I'm just glad we're not having a work stoppage, that the season's not being postponed until they actually get this worked out. So replacement refs, do you think it's going to make a big difference? I only really heard about it just a few days ago. So my guess is the league was prepared, but they were so prepared that they didn't really have to worry people about it. I don't know. It just seems like kind of unusual timing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not a fan of the pro. Like, I don't know. I feel like every league will have complaints against their refs. So like, I always hear like, MLS refs like, oh, they're like pro refs. Like, I think pro is the ref organization that operates and and MLS and I always hear bad things about it from like. There's always like people from other countries saying, oh, the MLS is the worst or MLS refs are the worst and. But then when you look at like pages for, soccer pages, social media pages, for other teams and other countries and other leagues, they always say the same thing. I mean, everyone always blames the refs, for being inconsistent or, this or that, or maybe complaints with VAR, video assist referees. So when it comes to this one, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of complaints against the refs. There've been a lot of games I feel like I always tell Denise, we always laugh about, who's going to be the ref today because now, we've watched enough where we're sort of familiar with, okay, who's it going to be? And, oh, we hope it's not Ted Uncle or we hope it's not, so and so. And so, yeah, I mean, I heard people saying, oh, if they don't get signed on or if we don't reach an agreement with them, well, who cares? But, like you said about we saw with NFL, and I understand soccer's done a similar thing before where, we didn't make a deal with, the quote unquote best ref organization for that season. And we've had, there are some disastrous or at least, real inconsistent calls. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm afraid I'm afraid for the inconsistency that I see is going to come just because if it's not going to be, pro refs, who's it going to be? Somebody who's not reffing at the same, level as what we already have because, otherwise they'd already be there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It has the potential to go bad. So we'll see. That's what I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it could go really bad. It could be decent. We could be pleasantly surprised. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just glad that we're not getting a game stoppage and that we're actually going to move forward with this plan. And speaking of that, so the final talking point that I want to go over tonight, first game against Inter Miami, 1 week from tonight. I'm so psyched for this game. This is probably the number one game for the season that I'm most looking forward to. Before Inter Miami faces the Galaxy, they are going to be hosting RSL in Miami. So they have a midweek game to start out the season to kick off Major League Soccer. And then after that, Messi and friends will be joining us here at Dignity Health Sports Park on Sunday, February 25th, I believe. Yeah, 25th. So what do you think? Is this a great way to start the season? Is the test going to be too hard for this new Galaxy team against Miami? What are your thoughts about facing Messi and friends?
I think it's going to be a really interesting game. Essentially, Inter Miami is really the team that people are talking about because, it's the team that, that landed Messi after his last European team that he played for in Paris. And so, so there's a lot of eyes on Miami right now. It's Messi, arguably the best football player in the world. And so to see, him and basically a bunch of old teammates, old friends that he's played with on Barcelona, all on one team. it's kind of the all-star team, for MLS. It's like, oh my gosh, we have, this is Barcelona. This was like, we have some of the best players that Barcelona's had, currently playing on the same team in MLS. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it's probably the most interesting game. I'm definitely excited for this next Sunday, just to see him face off with Galaxy. And as far as what I think is going to happen, I think it's very interesting because Galaxy still hasn't, we talked about, we haven't finished all of our signings yet. We don't necessarily have all of our, I mean, we don't even have our third DP, spot locked in, but for all intents and purposes, it's going to happen. But,
Yeah.
you know, with Galaxy, we have a lot of potential. We've just signed all these players, but we haven't really seen how they play together yet. So I mean, we're sort of a team with a lot of upside, but we haven't actually seen us play as this Galaxy team before. And I think it's sort of the same way for Miami. So it sort of feels like a level playing field because Miami's made a lot of signings during their offseason, got Luis Suarez, who, they picked up, ex-Barcelona player. I mean, so it feels sort of like Miami and LA both have teams that have a lot of potential, but are still working on their chemistry. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then other things to just consider is the fact that Inter Miami is going to be facing RSL midweek. So they have a game in hand for the Galaxy, but that could be the entire league's not playing on Wednesday, then flying cross country to the West Coast, which they'll probably do maybe Friday evening, then rest and relax on Saturday, or maybe do training on Saturday. I'm not sure, but I think the timing could actually play in favor of the Galaxy. Not that I want the Galaxy to have any breaks. I mean, I definitely want Inter Miami at full strength, but my prediction is that I think Inter Miami is actually going to demolish RSL on their home opener. And then when they come to face the Galaxy next week, I'm seeing it as like a 1-1 or a 2-2 tie. But again, regardless, so it's going to be a really exciting, fun game to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll be exciting. And yeah, I mean, that game sold out a long time ago. So it'll be a full stadium. I think we'll have all the support behind our players. I mean, there'll obviously be a lot of Messi fans or a lot of people interested in seeing Messi, but just the fact that they kept the game, in Dignity Health versus somewhere like, the Rose Bowl, which because I mean, honestly, I feel like Galaxy probably could have had it at the Rose Bowl, but if we had her at the Rose Bowl, we'd probably have a lot more Miami fans, filling those seats. So the fact that it's going to be a Dignity Health is very exciting because, I think our team will be pumped up, and there'll be a lot of new potential on the field, a lot of new players trying to prove themselves on the field. So, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing, just also to bring up for being at the home stadium versus somewhere else for the home opener, they talked about, I forget the names of the gentlemen that Josh Gessman talked about on his podcast, The Corner of the Galaxy, but they were talking about how the revamps that the stadium's gone through, like things have been streamlined, like security is much better now. Apparently you don't have to take out your wallet and your keys. You can leave them all in your pocket as you go through the metal detector. So it should make getting through the gates much, much faster. They revamped like Soccer Fest. They basically going to kind of make it more like a inviting family atmosphere. I think maybe sort of similar to what the Dodgers have done with Dodger Stadium, not like with the full renovations where they have like a play area for the kids, but I think it's actually going to be a really cool. They basically, the way they've described it is that they really want to show off the stadium now. So that's where they really wanted to do the home opener at Dignity Health versus going to the Rose Bowl. But even though you are right, they absolutely could have sold out the Rose Bowl for Messi.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I really like Dignity Health. So the fact that they made even more improvements on it, that'll be exciting to see what they do there, or what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So that's all the talking points I had tonight, Tim. Was there anything else about the Galaxy or anything else in general you wanted to bring up before we wrap up?
Not really. I think we really covered all the main, all the good stories. So I mean, go Galaxy. Let's go 2024. I think we're gonna make the playoffs if I'm gonna guess, I mean, we haven't even started the season, but as far as like how I think it's gonna end, I think this team looks like it's going to be a team that's going to make the playoffs for sure, just because of who we're going to have on it. Arguably, I think, with if Paintsel comes through and we have, these 3 DPs, I think they'll arguably be, one will be one of the teams with the 3 best DPs on their team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm excited. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the odds of the Galaxy having 6 or 7 starters go down with injury and miss a good chunk of the season, it's just last year was just a huge anomaly. So yeah, if everyone stays healthy, I mean, we might have an injury or 2 throughout the season, but if this team that they've assembled stays healthy, I guarantee they're going to make the playoffs. And then who knows after that? I mean, I think they could be one of the better teams in the Western Conference, top 3. And possibly be competing for an MLS Cup this year. But we'll have to just wait and see. But as a fan, I'm just excited that Will Kuntz and Greg Vanney and everybody else involved has put together a really awesome team for us to be excited about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. But Tim, thank you so much for joining with me. I always love talking LA Galaxy soccer with you. I'll definitely have you on later in the year for additional fun talking points. And again, it's always just a blast to catch up with you. And I hope you and your family are doing great.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, I love coming on here. And I mean, talking about Galaxy, I mean, soccer's still growing in the country. And so, the more, every time I meet a new MLS fan, I'm just, I'm ready to talk. Let's talk the sport, let's talk our teams. So, I mean, yeah, I love it. So thank you for having me. And we'll see where the season goes.
Very cool. Okay, so thank you, everybody. You've been listening to the Casting for Fun podcast. Have a good night.